Hello, my name is Jason Williams, CEO for the Society of Innovators at Purdue Northwest, and welcome to the Spark series, where we ignite conversations with innovators, entrepreneurs, and changemakers creating real impact. Our goal is to spark ideas, share journeys, and inspire action. I'm excited to welcome today's Spark series guest, Edward Garza, CEO of El Popular, a historic family-owned food company known for bringing authentic Mexican flavors to American kitchens for over a century. In fact, El Popular is the oldest Mexican business in the country, founded by his grandfather, Vicente. Under Edward's leadership, El Popular has embraced product innovation, cultural authenticity, and strategic growth, introducing nearly 20 new products since he took the helm. In our conversation, we'll explore how Edward balances heritage and innovation, what it means to lead a legacy brand into the future, and why staying curious, evolving with your consumer, and investing in new ideas are essential for long-term success in the food industry. Edward, welcome. Pleasure to sit down with you today. So the first question I want to know, a century-old company, I think 1925, although I think there may be some research that says it might predate that.
It might be earlier, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, certainly then, this is, basically all yes. As far as growing up. So what is your earliest memory of El Popular, and did you ever imagine that you'd end up leading the company one day?
You know what? No, I never thought I would lead the company. I started at an early age. And it was basically out of volunteering to want to work, because at a young age, just to make money was sort of intriguing to me, especially as young as I was. The family was the only members who could actually make what we call the secret green spice blend for the chorizo. And one day, my dad turned to me and said, would you like to go to work and make some money? And I said, absolutely. So I jumped at it, and I was 9 years old. And that's where I started. I started making the products, and just to give you an idea, the volume. So as a young kid, I would put spices in a barrel. I would literally close the barrel, flip the barrel around the building. When I came back, it was perfectly blended. So it's very interesting evolution from going from a very archaic process to now being in a automated system.
Well, thanks for sharing that origin. And then fast forward, you took the helm around 2002, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And so you took over the company, and I know throughout its history, from what I've read, there maybe not twists and turns, but there's been some diversification, food distribution. But for the most part, you've got a company that's really focused on making that same recipe since the 1920s. And so as you took the helm and started to put your stamp of leadership on the company, what prompted you, or I guess how did you know that it was finally time to evolve?
I went to school, in getting a master's degree, an MBA in business, and I started to evaluate my father's business at that time. The idea was, how do we grow this business? By the time I took the business over, we had somewhere about 400, 500 items. I did a study on what would happen if I reduced the line of 500 items down to 10. What would that look financially? What would it look like as far as the focus of the company? Because at that time we were based Chicagoland area. My ambition was to go national. So I took our hallmark item, which was our chorizo products, and I basically just reduced that product line down to 10. And we did focus. After a certain amount of time, we started to see growth beyond the Chicago market. Today, we are in different markets throughout the country, and also pretty much cover all provinces in Canada.
I'm also curious, were there any first customers or partners that when you took leadership of the company that really helped signal, hey, it's time to spark some of these changes?
There was one in particular that made me really believe that we could take off. Back when I started, there was a chain of grocery stores in Northwest Indiana, and it also encompassed central part of Illinois. It was called Eagle Foods. And Eagle Foods had about 5 stores in Northwest Indiana. And our business was delivering directly to the stores. So though I wanted to be in those 5 stores. So I went to one of the stores. I asked, they said, no, you can't talk to us. You have to talk to the main office. So I drove out there one day, sat down with the buyer, and I said, here's my idea. I want to sell to you to these 5 stores. And she says, I'm sorry, you can't do that. And I said, well, I appreciate the time. We went to that talk, and she said, well, wait a minute. Says, what I'm going to do is not just give you 5 stores, I'm going to give you all our stores. And all the stores were about 115 stores. Says, but you won't have to go store to store. We have a warehouse, you bring the product in, and we'll distribute it to all the stores. So that was a big step in our business, because we never thought we could go from dealing with the small Hispanic stores and then take this huge leap and go into a warehouse. So that was sort of the spark that told me, if I can get into this warehouse, I might be able to get in a Jewel warehouse. I might be able to get in a Dominic warehouse or Walmart's warehouse. And eventually we got to those steps. So there is no overnight success. It's a gradual, small steps to success.
Yeah, no, that's really good. So certainly you shared, you had some formal training, but you've certainly been learning as you go as well.
Oh,
so
yes.
That's really good. And let's talk about the product line a little bit. You said you started with, paring it down to 10 products.
Yes.
But over the last 20 years or so that you've been at the helm, you've introduced 18 new products.
Yeah.
So walk us through, how do you spot a good idea? What signals or trends tell you that this is something worth developing? Or how do you balance that data versus that instinct and what customers are asking for?
The thought was, let me take the chorizo products. That seemed to be the products that most people relate to. So when someone would say El Popular, immediately it was chorizo. It wasn't anything else. So my intention was, how do I take, at that time, there were 2 items. There was basically a hot flavored chorizo, a pork, and a mild. What I wanted to be known for is a sausage company. So when someone said El Popular, whether you were Hispanic or non-Hispanic, you would know, that's that sausage company. Well, the idea was, how do I expand on the product line? And I started with flavor profiles. So we had what we call like a medium hot, a mild, and then I came out with what's called a super picante. And that was our pork line. And then I started looking at, well, this would be great in beef. So I started a beef flavor and eventually got into a chicken. And it just kept growing from there. And so we continued to innovate, look at different things that may be of interest to the masses, but we're also looking at what are some of the conveniences, because today's consumer is looking for convenience. They don't have an hour to sit after they come back from work and start cooking. So we're even looking at new packaging, pre-cooked products, things of that nature, just to keep evolving and going forward.
Yeah, no, this all sounds delicious. Yeah. And I want to kind of lean into maybe another angle on this conversation. Your father and your grandfather were both known, yes, for expanding some of what they were distributing, but with those family-made products, right? This strict adherence to a high standard of quality, these very traditional recipes. How have you balanced that commitment to quality, but yet still balance that desire to experiment and innovate?
So my grandfather, he believed in all natural. Now, his recipes came from Mexico. He was from Monterrey, Mexico. He migrated to the United States, and then he opened up his business in 1925. And so those same recipes are used today. We may take a recipe and we may change it for a different product or make consideration for a variety of things. We're always looking at recipes that can be used outside of the Mexican menu. We worked together with Ivy Tech, and we've had culinary contests where they focus on using chorizo in innovative foods. So, you can use it in spaghetti sauce and chili and different things, but they started using it in desserts. They were making chorizo chocolate chip cookies. They were thinking differently. And that's what I enjoyed watching with the students, and they're using El Popular products to do that.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And as you're evaluating a new idea, how do you gauge the size of that opportunity? Are you looking at national trends? Are you leaning on your own data? Is it more instincts, from before?
It's interesting you say that. As a small business owner, you have an advantage. You're able to make decisions much faster. It's not the big companies that eat the small companies. It's the fast companies that eat the slow companies. So I've always kept that in my mind. Everything's a calculated decisions. We had a product, it was a plant-based chorizo. One of my salesmen brought it to our attention, and we sort of passed on it for a couple of years. One time we sat down around a table and we decided, let's give a try to what, one of the competitors was selling it. We tried it and I thought, you know what, this is not a bad item. I think I can make this better. I can make it taste so good that people would have trouble distinguishing the difference between a plant-based and let's say a pork-based. And we did, we were able to achieve that. And today it's one of our fastest growing categories is the plant-based sausage.
And as we start to wrap this up, wanted to think through, maybe some of the students or younger entrepreneurs watching this, any advice that you would have for, recognizing opportunity in an industry that may seem, traditional or already saturated?
Ooh, my thought, and I learned this from being in school, we had studied the lottery. And what are the odds of winning a lottery? And it was a great lesson because at the end, we figured out what a waste of time to even spend $1. Because you can get an idea, follow that idea, put a lot of energy and faith behind it, and you may win your own lottery. And I've been an entrepreneur most of all my life, and I highly encourage people, even my employees, I encourage them to go out and be entrepreneurs. It's a leap of faith. And that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, well, that's great advice. Be your own lottery. I like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Edward, thank you for taking the time to join the conversation. I've really enjoyed this. Look forward to continuing to follow the growth of El Popular. And hey, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Right. Thank you very much.